Good afternoon. This is Arrow FM and this is Rotary Matters. Now I'm Heather from the Rotary Club of South Wairarapa, and about to sing for you is Paul Mason, who is not only from the Rotary Club of South Wairarapa, but he is also our newly elected president.
Pennies in a stream, falling leaves of sycamore, moonlight in the morn. Icy fingers wave, ski trails down a mountainside, moonlight in the morn. Telegraph cables, they sing down the highway as they travel each bend in the road. People who meet in this romantic setting are so hypnotized by the lovely evening summer breeze, warbling of the meadow lark, moonlight in the morn. Telegraph cables, they sing down the highway as they travel each bend in the road. People who meet in this romantic setting are so hypnotized by the lovely evening summer breeze, warbling of meadow lark, moonlight in the morn. You and me and moonlight in the morn.
Thank you, Paul Mason. This is just one of the many talents of the Rotary Club of South Wairarapa's new president. All Rotary clubs and organisations seem to change their president in June every year, and Paul has only just been appointed, so he's a newly fledged president, but he's got a great background in Rotary. How long have you been in Rotary, Paul?
Oh, I should have thought you'd ask me that question. I don't know, it must be about 7 years by now, 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years. And in that time, you've certainly done a lot of work to upgrade the technology that we've been using at South Wairarapa. I do know that you've taught almost everybody how to use the technical setups, how to cope with the sound and lighting of events, and indeed sometimes I think you teach us how to sing, which is not a bad idea, because of course every year we do go and sing to the people at Arbor House. No, I don't mean that at all. The people at Wairarapa. We have a lovely Christmas function there. Now, Paul, not only was the changeover to welcome you as president, but it was also to mark the first 50 years. And 50 years is not a bad sum. It's half a century. 50 years of the South Wairarapa Rotary Club. And one of the things we did to welcome you, and indeed to welcome all the guests at the function, was a little potted history of the first 50 years. and all the presidents we had in that time. So I thought we could take turns picking up. I don't think we need to read every single event from the 50 years, or we might have to have another 17 or 18 programs, but I thought we might just check through some of the highlights of the first years. Shall I start?
Go for it.
Right. Okay, with our first president, Mr. de Montauk, the first project was installing a ramp at the new Union Church Hall. And this was in Greytown because the Rotary Club of South Wairarapa started as the Rotary Club of Greytown. In those days, meals, the dinner for Rotary was 60 cents, and the club levy was 20 cents, and there was no liquor. I'm afraid things have changed very slightly in the last 50 years. Dinner costs really rather a lot more, and you may indeed have a small refreshment with your dinner.
Okay. Did you want me to carry on?
I wanted you to carry on and read something else that interested you out of the decade from 1969 to 1978.
Oh, okay. Well, it says that in 1972 we went to sing at Wairarapa before Christmas, which was the beginning of a now long tradition. I think we've been, crikey, that's a long time.
It is a long time.
At Wairarapa, but we do go there every Christmas, and as a result we usually have our Christmas, what is it, a dinner? Christmas dinner?
Yes.
At Wairarapa as well.
Not a Wairarapa.
Wairarapa.
Do we have Christmas dinner?
Oh, sorry, Christmas at Martinborough.
We do indeed have Christmas. Yes. While I think the folk at Wairarapa are delighted to see us, I think staying for dinner might be a bit of a strain on the hospitality.
Mind you, they do give us quite a reasonable little supper.
They give us remarkably lovely nibbles.
So we're just about ready to head off for a huge Christmas dinner, and they've got all the sandwiches and drinks and little hors d'oeuvres and stuff, and it's a bit difficult to resist.
You're quite
hang on and wait till we get to the Christmas dinner.
Right, exactly. The pass-arounds are so nice. They pass around and suddenly you don't really need that Christmas dinner. Now,
you can usually tamp it down.
Oh, I expect you could. Now, the first Martinborough fairs, and this seems an amazingly long time ago, were in 1977 with 35 stalls at $20 a sight. Now, 35 stalls was actually not enough to do more than a little frill of salesmanship around the outside edges of the square in Martinborough, and I have been told there was still room left to have a pretty good game of cricket down the middle.
I can imagine. I think we made around about $500, and the bulk of that money came, in fact, probably all that money came from the Rotary stall. The Rotarians all made food and brought produce along and had a little Rotary stall, which we sold stuff at. I think all the others made a loss.
That's a bit sad, but at least they kept coming back.
That's right.
And now they're coming back in this what?
I think the stallholders actually made money out of it, but from our perspective, with the costs of the fair, it cost more than the $20 a stall to run it. So we learned from our lessons from that experience, and went on to bigger and better things.
Right, because I know by the end of that decade, the Martinborough Fair had become quite a large project and had a net profit of $1,200. Then moving into the next decade, in the 1979-1980s, the club members were put to work making trestles, and I noticed they made 100 trestles, so they're expecting 100 stalls. Paul, from memory, how many stalls do we have each year now?
I think last year it was around just under 500, so what that number was 480 something.
480 something, which overflowed the centre of the square and washed out a block or two in each direction. That's amazing.
Well, we've been expanding a little bit each year, I think, or each term. And at the time when Mary and I took on running the Martinborough Fair, we found that some of the shop owners were having a little bit of difficulty attracting custom because they were down some of the side streets, and people were just sort of wandering past the end, and so they would come out with their sandwich boards and put them out into the fair, and some of the stall holders would, set up their equipment around the signs, and so they weren't so visible. So I thought we could extend the fair a little, so we put it down Ohio Street, and set up some stalls there, and also some out some of the other roads, Texas Street, to try and get some of the 25,000 odd visitors to move out into those areas where there were other shops. Another thing we had was Mitre 10 was suffering a bit of a lack of patronage, and we had used their car park, which they very generously allow us to use at their cost in terms of business. So we opened up Texas Street and put stalls all the way down there. It's a bit of a narrow street, which is probably why the other previous conveners hadn't used it. But it gave, the effect was to start the traffic churning around in those areas, especially in Mitre 10. So they went down Texas Street. We positioned the Mr. Whippy truck down the end of Texas Street for two reasons. One was to stop people driving up, but the other was to sound their green sleeves every now and then and try and attract people down to the attractive ice cream at the end of the thing, at the end of the street. But she kept forgetting to sound the green sleeves thing, so it didn't quite work that way.
Nevertheless, there's obviously far more to the positioning of stalls and the encouragement of activities than I'd realised.
Well, that's right. There's, for instance, food stalls. Where do you put food stalls? And you can't have, two chip sellers next door to each other. They get a bit upset. Whereas with the other stalls, like, I suppose it depends on the stallholder, but most of them would have an enclave. You would have people selling similar things, and people would go to that area. But we've been trying to keep things a little bit separate now. People have suggested we have a food court. And some of the food sellers would quite like to be in an area which was where all food was consumed. But what I found was that people like to just sort of be wandering around all the stalls and be able to pick here and pick there, and take a hot dog from here and a rosti from there. I don't know. You can't please everybody,
No, you can't, although I notice that the rosti stall does tend to please everybody. Right. Often I'm giving directions on how to find places around the fair, and if I can find somebody linked up with the rosti stall, I said it was okay, I'll walk past the tail of the rostis and go on beyond, and you'll see lost behind the queue. It's incredibly popular.
It is, and it's such a simple recipe as far as I can make out. You put a few, scrunch up the potatoes and cook them in whatever, butter and salt and stuff, and delicious.
I know, but I mean, they look like scrambled eggs and they taste like roasted potatoes. It's quite amazing.
Oh, they're good. Good.
Right, now let's move on to the 1989-1990s. What happened? Oh, exactly. Having changed its constitution in the 1980s, suddenly the Rotary Club of South Wairarapa, as it now became, was allowed to admit women. And in 1991, Joy Halford became the first woman to be inducted into the club and went on to become its first female president.
Yes.
Now,
that's been a great innovation, of course, in circles of Rotary. But Rotary, it was put together by Paul Harris and a few of his friends. So he was 36, I think, at the time, and some of his business acquaintances made Rotary to be a philanthropic networking organisation. And of course, in those days, 1936-ish, most business people were male, and so it was a lot of guys getting together and starting to have an organisation through which they could be philanthropic. And that's obviously that stayed that way for many years.
But indeed, Rotary was able to adapt to the circumstances. Exactly. And now I see.
Well, as the landscape changed, and we find that women are more and more proving themselves as completely capable and adaptable and able, it just makes sense for Rotary to include them in their lineup.
I noticed that total club membership at the moment is at 67, comprised of 28 women and 39 men, but the balance of power seems to be changing very slightly because 16 new members have been inducted over the last 18 months, of which 5 were men and 11 were women.
Indeed.
Right, so still in the 1990s, we have the 25th anniversary, okay, halfway to where we are now. The new Pinnacles Toilets build was selected as an anniversary project, receiving a grant of $8,000, and a gala event was held at Kuranui College to mark the anniversary. And by 1994, our Rotary Club had raised over $250,000 for charitable causes, and the first Martinborough Fair bursary of $2,000 was awarded at Kuranui College in 1995. Now, we're quite lucky to have a college on our turf because the youngsters from Kuranui seem to take more and more part in Rotary affairs as time goes on. Okay, moving on to the century. There was a grant to IHC, that would have been the Handicapped Children's Society, of $18,000 for outdoor equipment at their respite home in Greytown. And then there's a theme here. With the Rotary Club's help, a toilet was installed at Cross Creek on the Rimutaka Incline track. In 2002 also, the first Taratahi Scholarship was awarded, along with the 2 now established Martinborough Fair bursaries at Kuranui. In 2003, we started giving books to new entrants in South Wairarapa primary schools, and I know they're still going ahead, and my grandchildren are always very, very pleased when their books arrive. Now, this is interesting. $20,000 was granted to the Greytown Town Hall refurbishment project, and I imagine that will be when they turned the old Town Hall into the library. And we had fundraising dinners for Puranoa School, initially at Puranoa Hall and then later at Lacewood. Okay, what do you think looks interesting in the next decade?
Where are you up to? 1998? No.
Either 1999 to 2008 or the next bracket.
Well, we had $18,000 for the IHC for outdoor equipment. I don't know much about what happened in that area, so I'd be reading off my list. Books, 2,350 books given to new entrants in South Wairarapa primary schools. Well, books, now there's an interesting thing. We've just sent a whole lot of books off up to Simbu in the Solomons. And when I say we, it's Pamela Mesavi and her committee, the International Committee, had put together a project involving the Rotary Club up in the Solomons there and the village leaders in Simbu. They need books, they need linen, towels and materials of that nature. So she's putting together shipments to send up there, but they've had a container full of books they put together from all around the place. Fantastic effort.
That is a wonderful effort. And then moving on to 2009 and heading into the 18s, we supported the Christchurch earthquake recovery efforts financially. Toilets again at the Waiahine Gorge and the Pinnacles, upgraded and repainted. The management of the Martinborough Charity Fun Ride was taken over by South Wairarapa Rotary in 2014. Now that's interesting because we've always had this one big fundraiser in the fair, and to have something else at a different time of year to keep the funds coming in, give the people who like managing events something to manage, and indeed keep Rotary's name before the public. The Charity Fun Ride is a fun ride. Our previous, or our immediate past president, I think, has won every single event for the electric bike. The e-bike event is very important, and each year it seems to have one entrant, and he has won, which is very nice because he used to have quite a history of falling off bikes. So it is nice to know that he can make it right round the circuit now. In the meantime, more serious riders compete again, as always, you're competing against yourself, but also against each other, and there are generous prizes and interesting events. The club hosted a friendship visit of 25 Rotarians from Taiwan. This was actually quite interesting because we weren't really expecting them, and then they suddenly arrived for dinner, and it was a little bit like having 25 distant relatives appear suddenly, and you think, oh my word, I've invited all these people, we must find something to feed them. But they were very jolly, very happy, and sang lustily to us, which is always a good thing to do, as Paul has demonstrated. We also donated 10,000 to the Martinborough Fire Brigade for their incident support vehicle. And you may remember her from earlier South Wairarapa Rotary Matters programs. We hosted Austrian exchange student Theresa Schwarzler, charming young woman from Egg near Vienna, who came and reminded us what youth internationally are still like and how well youngsters are turning out. But wait, there's more. And these are... You can take the first column and I'll take the second. How's that?
Okay. All right. So there's just a couple of columns of quick bullet points. We already talked about the Kuranui College bursaries, and we talked about some books, but there's also dictionaries in schools. We provide books for new entrants. That's at Kuranui College, isn't it?
No, new entrants are 5 and they're tiny.
Oh, well, that'll be before college then, wouldn't it?
Yes.
All right. We provide emergency response kits. These are kits made up ready to issue to people in disaster areas, where they can unwrap the package and it's got, what's it got, a tent, it's got some...
cooking utensils.
Has it got any food in it?
No food, but it does have what they call a multi-fuel stove, which means you can light it with... driftwood or cow dung or whatever seems to be an appropriate fuel for where you happen to be needing it.
Okay.
There are utensils for cooking. The boxes are packed and left in countries where it is likely that they'll be able to transport the boxes to the disaster area very, very quickly.
I think they cost about $1,500 each or something.
I believe so.
And so we sort of commit to a couple of years sending out.
Right, and the emergency response kits, which are cheaper, contain the internal contents of the shelter boxes, but without the tent and without the very big container that the tent and everything else is packed in, because that container is waterproof and it can be used for storage or, more importantly, for a water supply.
There's also the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, our acronym RYLA. Rotary Youth Driver Awareness. There's a program which is hosted by, Safe Roads Wairarapa, Road Safe Wairarapa, and various of the clubs, a lot of the Rotary clubs around the Wairarapa, where we invite students from all the schools to come and learn how to survive on the roads. They do a very good program showing videos of the effects of not driving well. They encourage them to investigate different strategies for decision making as new drivers. One of the shocking statistics that I saw that they were shown in the course is the number of road deaths. So there's a graph that shows from the point that a new driver gets their restricted license off to, when they've got a bit more experience, and the rate of deaths on the road is peaks just after people get their restricted license. So the challenge is to try and have people hit the roads, no, not literally, but to get on the roads with their restricted licenses and survive. So that trying to teach them how to handle interruptions and distractions, and with the decisions they should make about the way they drive, who they drive with, what time of day and night they're driving in, the conditions that they're driving in, and so try and give them the tools and the strategies to live through that first little time when it's so risky for them.
I think Paul has modestly forgotten to tell us that he has also been part of another driving scheme for young drivers and takes would-be drivers and learner drivers out in a car from Kuranui College to get them used to being on the road. I've been to that course and escorted youngsters around that Paul was just talking about. Now, I've been driving, obviously, for more than 50 years, and it would have been very nice if someone had told me or taught me all that stuff 50 years ago and not left me to muddle through by myself. But
well, I remember when I went for my licence, it was a matter of, can you start the car? Can you make it go forwards? Can you make it stop? Can you do a 3-point turn and a hill start? Because we only pretty much had manual cars in those days. And there you go. Thank you very much. Here's your licence. Full licence.
That was exactly it. A 15-year-old, and I was in one of those tiny little Fiat Bambinas, which caused the examining officer to swear audibly when he saw it because he was taller than the car. And it was the Thursday before Easter, Holy Thursday, so traffic in Wellington that day was a holy hell. And he said, "This isn't fair," and took me the first 100 yards down the road till we could start climbing Mount Victoria for the 3-point turns and starting on a hill. I don't know how I passed it either. And I never drove that Fiat Bambino again because it belonged to the driving school. So I had to learn something, indeed, manual. In fact, people my age can double the clutch as well and several other things because they hadn't invented automatic gearboxes. Exactly. Now, I'll take the second column because it really is interesting. My column
was interesting.
Your column was fascinating, but you distracted me with your clever wording about the driving. Now, Puhaka Mount Bruce, of course... Pukaha. Sorry, everybody. Paul is quite rightly correcting me. I believe we do some financial support, and I think we have built a gecko enclosure this year. But we also have a couple of very, very keen hunters who run a trap line up through the sanctuary. And I know when I was up there recently, one of them was very proud of having just trapped a ferret. So it's a very well worthwhile effort. It gives Rotarians a chance to get out and actually get their hands dirty on the trapping line, as well as being able to go down and look at the geckos. And I shouldn't have taken over from you, Paul, because I know you have a great deal to do with Ducks Unlimited.
Yeah, well, only in an administrative way. I look after their website and some of the electronic requirements in terms of data management. Mary's really the employed by Ducks Unlimited as their administrator, and I sort of come in and just sort of push buttons and do a bit of programming in the background, because my background is mostly computer programming.
So you look after their little webbed feet with a little website.
Yeah, oh God, crikey. Yeah, that's right.
Right. Also, Cobblestones Museum, which is a museum within the bounds of Greytown with a lot of very interesting exhibits. It's also been used as an outdoor theatre, and there was a memorable production of A Midsummer Night's Dream there, Christmas 2 before last, I think. Now,
cobblestones you're talking about?
I'm talking about cobblestones, yes.
Now, while we're talking about cobblestones, we do need, I say we because I've just recently volunteered to help them out, they need people to keep the doors open, people to man the shop or to man the reception, I suppose it is. Or woman, the reception, I suppose.
Staff the reception?
Staff reception. Some of the days they can't open because they don't have enough people. So if you've got any time at all where you could spend a couple of hours at Cobblestones, just being on reception and welcoming people in, get in touch with them as soon as you can.
Right, that's a very good thought. So if you're in the Greytown area and you would be interested in supporting Cobblestones...
In South Wairarapa.
In the South Wairarapa, indeed.
From Featherston. So
it's only 10 minutes from Featherston after all.
You could almost walk it.
Well, you might be able to, Paul. I could lurch, or I could sit behind a desk and smile people in, which is more my style.
Exactly.
Okay, we're also supporting Arbor House, Forikaka, Outward Bound. Now, once in a while, we send somebody off for a life-changing experience at Outward Bound, and I understand it really is a life-changing experience. Usually youngsters. And they do a lot of things. They learn to be alone at night in the sounds, which is a creepy experience. They learn to do the tree walking, the tightrope between one tree and another. They kayak. It's a very, very interesting course. And they come back having perhaps a bit of more of an insight about what real life really is about. There's a wellbeing project at Kuranui College, and I'll expect to get a report from one of my grandchildren about that because I can't remember what it's about. The Guide Dog Appeal, obviously. The Life Flight Trust. Wairarapa Whanau Trust. The Wairarapa Racing Club. Now, we have a really good symbiotic relationship with them. They need people in white coats to smile people into the race course for various events. And then they're able to support some of our other activities with the funds we have earned, as it were, by that work. We're very lucky to still have the racing club. It's one of the country's race courses that has survived very well, and in fact is turning into a really good district amenity where, for example, a changeover dinner can be held. Then we have the polio eradication program, and I'm going to talk about that in a little minute because we need to talk about Pakistan and polio eradication. The Greytown Christmas Parade. The list goes on, and someone pointed out to me that one of the things that is not on this program, and I should have seen that it was included, is the Parents Be Aware program that we ran 3 alternate years very successfully with visiting psychologists about the vulnerability of teenagers, peer pressure and their emotional states. So that was a very successful one which I should have seen was included. And that is the story so far, because of course that was only just the first 50 years. There's still plenty more we'll be doing, I promise you. Paul, would you like to give me another song?
Another song.
Another
now,
song.
Was this about water?
It could be about water. Let's make it about water.
Okay. I do know a song about water.
Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather, since my gal and I ain't together. It's raining all the time. Life is bad, gloom and misery everywhere, stormy weather. Just can't get my poor self together. I'm weary all the time. When she went away, the blues walked in and met me. If she stays away, oh, the rocking chair's gonna get me. All I do is pray that the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more. Can't go on, everything I have is gone. Stormy weather, since my gal and I ain't together. Keeps raining on I do is pray that the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more. Can't go on, everything I have is gone. Stormy weather since my gal and I ain't together. Keeps raining all the time. Keeps raining all the time. Keeps raining all the time.
Well, there couldn't have been a more perfect choice of an introduction, Paul. Thank you very, very much. Doesn't time pass quickly when you're having fun? I want to talk now about what happened earlier this year after Cyclone Gita hit Tonga. Couldn't be more of a stormy weather. And the Rotary clubs of Papakura and Tauranga packed their tools and tons of other gear into a 20-foot container and set off for the island of Ua, a 3.5-hour ferry ride from the main island Tongatapu in Tonga. Now, a Papakura, Rotary Club of Papakura member, John Ross, happens to work for the Heilaila Vanilla Company, and he knew how badly things were going on Ua. So it seems that Rotary Club of Papakura have got extensive experience in numerous water projects, including pumps, installing solar pumps and water pipes throughout whole villages on the Tongan island of Vavau over the past 16 years. They knew that the majority of relief efforts would be channeled onto the main island, so they decided to focus their assistance on the more remote Ua. Along with all the piping, plumbing and spouting needed, Rotarians had to bring along almost everything else necessary to equip an empty house organised by Heilala Vanilla, which they used for the 10 days they stayed. This included bedding, portable showers, refrigerator, microwave, barbecue, food and utensils, all of which they donated to the community after they left. They installed spouting and downpipes on 3 blocks and 48 houses, coordinating with the Tonga Trust already preparing to carry out Cyclone Gita repairs. The tools and materials required to equip another 100 houses were left behind, with the locals trained on how to accurately use the gear, fabricate spouting and install brackets. And I think this is something that the clubs think is essential, to leave behind something that means the locals can carry on with self-sufficiency for themselves and not needing us to come in and help all the time. The team finished their work on June the 7th, and that was less than 4 months after Gita struck. Now, 90% of all natural disasters are water-related. Worldwide, 90%. That includes floods, tsunamis, storms, heat waves, cold spells, drought, and, of course, waterborne disease outbreaks. And I am stuck for a second while I find the bit I was going to tell you about water, which there's a lot of. And as Paul, you've got all the pages of my script, which I doubt.
What was it labelled? Rain?
Nope. There we go. Now, most of the international work the Rotarians carry out is described in the Rotary Down Under magazine. Now, based in Australia, this magazine has news from Rotary worldwide, as well as the goings-on in our own neighbourhood, which is New Zealand, Australia and the South Pacific. The Rotary Foundation has 6 areas of focus, which mainly and most importantly focus on water, because clean water is needed in so many places around the world. I learned that countless organisations deliver water and sanitation projects throughout the world, but around half are not functioning 5 years after installation. Jeremy Hurst of Rotary Club of Grand Cayman in the Cayman Islands is chair of, long title, Haiti National Clean Water Sanitation and Hygiene Strategy, known mercifully as HANWASH for short. This massive project is committed to bringing water and sanitation alongside obvious health, community and economic benefits to all residents of Haiti in a coordinated and systematic manner. At the moment, water is considered available if it's 500 metres or less from home. That may mean you need to walk a kilometre before you can have your glass of water. And most of it is contaminated with E. coli. As well as Rotary clubs across the globe, the project will involve the Haitian government and the World Health Organization. The project is expected to take 13 years and cost $1.2 billion. I did say billion, and I said it in dollars. As a first step, they're undertaking their first pilot in the commune of Cavaillon in the south, where they are working with the government to bring an existing water system back online, providing clean water to over 15,000 people by adding new solar-powered pumping stations and repairing lines and access points. There are 140 communes in Haiti, and the project is engaging community leaders at multiple levels to ensure their buy-in and clarify that this is their system which they will need to pay for and maintain. This is intended to involve a mind shift away from a dependency culture to one of self-reliance to guarantee sustainability and lasting change. We don't just come in like a pack of fairy godfathers, wave our wand, and go away leaving them a well. They need to learn how to maintain it and how to run it. Now, page 3 must have got away on me, but here we go. Rain. Sometimes there's too much of it, or too little, or in the wrong place. Auckland and Japan were inundated yesterday, but 2.1 billion people lacked access to safely managed drinking water services. 1/3 of the world's population lacks a safe, sustainable water source, while approximately 6 out of 10 people don't have properly managed sanitation facilities. That's a polite way of saying there's no lose. I'm not going to read you the whole magazine, but one article alone discusses 90 million new household toilets in India, sanitation improvements in rural Zambian schools, clean water in 3 different areas of Timor-Leste, in a Nepalese school, in 202 Indonesian cooperatives, each cooperative having 10 to 25 houses, as well as 65 Indonesian schools, not to mention the Philippines, Cambodia, Tanzania, and Kenya. I shall shut up about water in a minute, but let's have another little bit of music, please, Paul. It doesn't have to be about water, and I'd prefer it wasn't about lose, but...
Okay. What about, there's a song that recently came out, Sam Cooke, I think it was the theme song to the James Bond movie.
You
I've been here before, always hit the floor. I spend a lifetime running and I always get away, but with you I'm feeling something that makes me want to stay. I'm prepared for this. I never shoot to miss, but I feel like a storm's coming. If I'm gonna make it through the day, then there's no more use in running. This is something I've gotta face. If I risk it all, could you break my fall? How do I live? How do I breathe? When you're not here, I'm suffocating. I wanna feel love run through my blood. Tell me, is this where I give it all? For you, I have to risk it all. on the wall. A million shards of glass hold me from my past. When the stars begin to scatter and the night begins to fade, when all hope begins to shatter, know that I won't be afraid. If I risk it all, could you break my fall? How do I live? How do I breathe? When you're not here, I'm suffocating. I wanna feel love run through my blood. Tell me, is this where I give it all up? To you, I have to risk it all, 'cause the writing's on the wall. How do I live? How do I breathe? When you're not here, I'm suffocating. I wanna feel love run through my blood. Tell me, is this where I give it all up? How do I live? How do I breathe? When you're not here, I'm suffocating. I wanna feel love run through my blood. Tell me, is this where I give it all up? For you, I have to risk it all, 'cause the writing's on the wall.
Thank you, Paul. That was brilliant, and I don't know that song, so it was lovely to hear it for the first time.
Spectre, I think, was the name of that.
Ah, right. Now, well, the writing, or rather the clock, is on the wall. We have another 8 minutes, and I'm just going to give you a quick shout-out to Carterton, where they have also had their changeover. Immediate past President Joseph Gillard reflected on a busy year of projects, including the Christmas parade and the hugely successful Talent Wairarapa competition. New President Alan Butler accepted the presidential chains. It's a chain, you know, Paul. You're chained. Saying that our essential task is to be ambassadors for Rotary and build goodwill in the community. A joint venture between Rotary and the Resource Teacher Learning and Behaviour Association, supported by Carterton, Rotary Clubs of Wairarapa and Masterton, Carla McNeil delivered a dynamic Teaching for Dyslexics workshop to 75 local school teachers. The buzz around this workshop was phenomenal. Groundbreaking research has shown that simple changes to the delivery of primary education can have a profound effect on the lives of children with undiagnosed learning disabilities. Carterton hopes this workshop will become a program that can be rolled out across the country and beyond. Next week, weekend 13th to 14th July, Carterton book lovers will be descending on the event centre to pour through a treasure trove of pre-loved books. The annual book fair is hugely popular and is from 10 a.m. daily till 4 p.m. Saturday and until 3 p.m. Sunday. If you have books to donate or you can help out sorting and setting up, please contact Alan on 022 101 5945 or Deirdre on 027 686 9953. Now, I know you won't have a pencil handy, so why don't you go online and hunt down Rotary Club of Carterton, who will have a website or a page there somewhere in Facebook, honestly. Rotary Club of Carterton is excited to be supporting local youth these school holidays. They've got Karina heading to the hut to participate in the Innovative Young Minds program, and they have Rosie heading to Palmerston North to join New Zealand Business Week in their Brave Thinkers event. We wish both girls a fabulous experience. Thanks, Rob Stockley, for keeping us up to date with what's going on in Carterton. Now we do have 5 whole minutes, so I'm going to talk about the president of the president of Rotary International, who's got himself lost in this forest of paper that I have brought with me. I have over-prepared, I gather. Oh, here we go, right on the front page where it should have been. Okay, we are the Rotary Club of South Wairarapa, so that's where our focus tends to be. But like all Rotarians, we're also part of Rotary International, and thereby taking part in what Barry Ressin, president of Rotary International, and who lives in the Bahamas, calls Rotary's capacity to transform lives for the better. He talks about Rotarians he met in Pakistan, who partnered with Coca-Cola to improve sanitation in Karachi's neighbourhoods, while also supporting polio eradication efforts. In a tragic twist to the End Polio Now campaign, 4 polio workers were killed in Pakistan during April. The 4 deaths included 2 police officers responsible for protecting polio teams. To add to the turmoil, the Pakistan Federal Health Minister has been sacked, the head of the Federal Polio Emergency Operating Centre replaced, and a fake news propaganda campaign was launched against the polio program. Now, we hear about fake news sometimes, but this is genuinely fake. The fake propaganda campaign led to thousands of children needlessly going to hospital and created a public outcry. With local elections due this month, it seems to have been created by troublemakers trying to show that this current government is incompetent. The End Polio Now campaign has been suspended for an indefinite period, but dedicated Rotary campaign leaders are doing everything possible to address and control the situation. As of April 29th this year, there were just 12 cases of wild polio virus confirmed globally, 6 cases each in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Last year, the total was 8. I'm old enough to remember when there were more cases than that in New Zealand every year. So the End Polio Now campaign is still going ahead. Rotary is still supporting it. Bill Gates is still matching us dollar for dollar on the work. It's just that while it's not safe in Pakistan, it's temporarily suspended. And that, on a less than happy note, is very nearly our 57 minutes. Paul, would you like to play us out?
Why not? As helpless as a kitten up a tree, and it feels like I'm clinging to a cloud I can't understand. I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play. Or it might be that sound of your hello is music I hear. I get misty the moment you're near. You could say that you're leading me on, but it's just what I want you to do. Don't you realize how hopelessly I'm lost? That's why I'm following you. Wonderland alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove.
like it misty. I'm too much in love. Misty, too much in love.
Thank you, Paul Mason, President Paul of Rotary Club of South Wairarapa. And that's it from Rotary Matters for another month. Thank you.